Under the glow of artificial light and flickering screens, we've built a world that pulses with data, connection, and comfort. Yet beneath the polished surface of modern life, something is broken. You feel it in the silence between dopamine hits. You sense it when the noise quiets and all that's left is the question, what is all this for? You scroll, swipe, tap, and consume, but the hunger never leaves. We are drowning in abundance but starving for meaning. This is not progress. This is camouflage for collapse. And Friedrich Nietzsche saw it coming. He didn't speak to algorithms or TikTok trends, but he saw the soul of a society unraveling, a society that had killed its God and left nothing in his place. He called it the death of God, not as a theological claim, but as a psychological catastrophe. When he wrote those words, he wasn't celebrating. He was mourning. Because he understood what we are only now beginning to feel. When you erase the source of ultimate value, you do not become free. You become untethered. Modernity has severed the cords that once anchored us to myth, to ritual, to transcendence. In their place, we erected institutions of logic, economy, and spectacle. We crowned the individual sovereign over all, but gave him no compass. And so, we wander overworked, overstimulated, and underlived. We've been promised that the future belongs to us, but it feels more like we belong to the future, endlessly optimizing ourselves for a machine that doesn't care if we exist. Look closer. Look past the influencers and innovation summits. What do you see? A rising tide of anxiety, a generation medicating just to function, loneliness declared a public health crisis, men lost in quiet desperation, women burning out under the weight of perfection, and everywhere, a vague yet persistent ache like an amputated limb, still felt but unseen. This is Nietzsche's crisis. It is not just philosophical, it is personal, intimate, devastating. We have confused distraction with fulfillment. We've traded depth for speed. We worship productivity, but fear stillness. Because in the stillness, the truth returns, the unfiltered mirror. It tells us what we don't want to admit, that we are building towers on sand, that our lives are shaped by systems designed not to nourish but to extract, that convenience is killing our courage, that we are not okay. Nietzsche warned that once we abandon the sacred, we do not ascend. We fall into nihilism, into a hollow where anything goes and nothing matters. And in that vacuum, power steps in. Marketing, manipulation, addiction. The will to power becomes the will to control others, not ourselves. And slowly, silently, the human spirit becomes machinery, efficient, predictable, replaceable. This is the hidden crisis of modern society. Not poverty of resources, but poverty of soul. Not the lack of answers, but the absence of questions worth asking. We have medicine for every symptom, but no cure for meaninglessness. We are not suffering from a lack of progress, we are suffering from a lack of purpose. And deep down you know this. That ache in your chest, that restless scroll, that flicker of rage when you see another curated life that feels like a mockery of your own. It's not envy, it's grief. Grief for what's been lost, for what you could have been if only the world were built to grow souls, not markets. Nietzsche called on us to become Übermensch not as a fantasy of dominance, but as a vision of transcendence. To create our own values, to forge meaning in a world that no longer hands it to us. But we misread him. We took his warning and turned it into another brand, another buzzword. We plastered strength on gym walls and ambition on Instagram captions while missing the core, that the journey inward is the only path out of despair. He knew the way would be hard. He suffered for it. Madness kissed his forehead before death took him. But in that suffering he saw a truth that burns through time, that only through confronting the abyss can we birth something higher. That courage is not found in avoidance but in confrontation, not in comfort, but in transformation. And now, we stand at a precipice. You feel it. The air is thick with tension, like the moment before a storm. We are living in the ruins of promises that no longer inspire, systems that no longer serve. And if we continue to deny the crisis, we will not just lose our past, We will forfeit our future, but there is another way. But there is another way. Not through escape, not through numbing or retreat, but through revolt, a deep internal uprising against the dead logic that governs our days. This revolt isn't loud. It isn't made of fire and slogans. It begins in the quietest place. Your own mind, your own refusal. The moment you stop saying yes to what is killing you. The moment you look at your life and ask, who decided this was living? We are conditioned to obey not through whips and chains, but through metrics and likes. We perform ourselves for invisible crowds. We smile while drowning. We chase goals handed down from the same culture that's hollowed us out. And we wonder why it feels like we're faking it, because we are. We wear masks made of algorithms, personas designed for visibility, not truth. And in doing so, we exile the parts of us that can't be monetized. But Nietzsche whispered something dangerous into the ear of anyone willing to listen. You are not here to conform. You are here to create. Not in the capitalist sense of content and hustle, but in the eternal sense. The sacred rebellion of becoming. The defiance of shaping your soul in a world that wants your obedience more than your awakening. His words were not soft. They were knives, forged for cutting through illusion. He spoke to the warrior within the part of you that refuses to die quietly. That's why his writing still terrifies. Because it demands you face your cowardice, your compromises. He asks you what you've become in your comfort and what you're willing to destroy in order to feel alive again. It's not safe, and it's not supposed to be, because safety is the sedative, comfort is the leash. You were not born for sedation. You were born for struggle, the sacred kind, the kind that sharpens you. This is not romanticism of suffering. This is a call to conscious confrontation. Look at your addictions, not just to substances, but to approval, to certainty, to routine, to the curated life that demands you smile while rotting inside. Nietzsche dared to say that suffering is not our enemy. It is the crucible. It is where masks melt and truths emerge. He didn't pity suffering, he revered it, because he understood what modernity has forgotten, that without struggle, the soul calcifies. And look around, calcification is everywhere. In the bureaucratic rituals we perform in jobs we hate, in the sterile glow of LED-lit nights, in the shallow highs of consumer joy. We're surrounded by comforts that cost us our vitality, sedated by pleasures that demand no participation of the soul. We are the most entertained and least fulfilled generation in human history. And no, this isn't a problem technology will solve. No app can reconnect you to yourself. No device can resurrect your spirit. The question isn't what's next, it's what matters. The question is not how fast you go, but where you're headed. You can master the tools of the modern world and still lose your humanity in the process. You can be connected to everyone and still profoundly alone. Because what we lack is not efficiency. What we lack is authentic being. Nietzsche's crisis is your crisis. The question is whether you'll ignore it or face it. Whether you'll keep numbing or start remembering that you were not meant to fit in. You were meant to overcome. Not the world yourself. The smallness, the fear, the inherited scripts. You were meant to write your own code, not run on someone else's. But writing your own code requires something terrifying. Standing still, turning inward, asking, what am I complicit in? Where have I betrayed my truth for approval? Where have I chosen safety over sovereignty? That kind of honesty costs. It burns. But what it burns away is illusion, and what remains is real, raw, unpolished, imperfect, and alive. This revolt of the self isn't a trend. It's not sexy. It won't make you rich, but it will make you real. And in an age of masks, reality is rebellion. When you choose depth over dopamine, stillness over scrolling, presence over performance, you're not just healing yourself. You're breaking the cycle. You are becoming the rupture in a lineage of sleepwalkers. And maybe that's why you're here. Not to be entertained, not to be inspired, but to be awakened, to be provoked, to be called not gently, but urgently into the only life that will ever mean anything, the one you choose for yourself, in defiance of the one that was chosen for you. This is the moment where everything either fractures or forges, where you stand naked before the mirror of existence and decide, will I be shaped by this world, or will I shape myself in spite of it? Nietzsche did not believe in salvation by comfort. He believed in transformation through fire. He knew that the most vital parts of us, the parts capable of vision, of greatness, of love that costs something, are born in chaos, not convenience. And that's exactly where we are now. A culture built on noise and numbness is collapsing under the weight of its own hollowness. The illusions are cracking, the glitter is flaking, and through the rupture, you can hear it. The call to become. This is not a crisis of politics, not of economics. This is a spiritual crisis wearing the mask of modernity. It is the soul starving beneath the metrics, the psyche howling beneath the smile, the primal scream buried under Zoom meetings and endless updates. We are taught to fear silence, but silence is sacred, because in silence, you finally hear the voice that was drowned out. Your own, and that voice does not want to be optimized. It does not want to be marketable. It wants to be unfiltered, undivided, unafraid. But this kind of becoming demands death. Not literal death, the death of who you were told to be. The death of the version of you that plays small to make others comfortable. The death of the obedient self that nods along while dying inside. That's why it hurts. That's why it's lonely. Because birth always is. Nietzsche saw that too. He wrote of the eternal recurrence, the terrifying idea that you must live your life as if you had to live it again and again, infinitely. Every pain, every joy, every regret, returned forever. It's not just a thought experiment, it's a weapon. It forces you to ask, am I living a life I would be willing to repeat? Most of us aren't. Most of us are sleepwalking through someone else's dream, performing meaning while secretly unraveling. But the crisis is your chance to wake up. It is the unbearable pressure that can either crush you or catalyze you. If you let it, this world can teach you to survive. But if you face it, truly face it, it can teach you to transcend. And transcendence doesn't mean rising above the world. It means going through it with your eyes wide open. It means holding your suffering like a compass instead of a curse. It means saying yes to the pain, because somewhere in that darkness is the seed of your becoming. You were not made to be passive. You were not made to outsource your truth. You were made to wrestle with angels. You were made to stand at the edge of the abyss and not flinch. This is the crisis Nietzsche tried to warn us about, not to paralyze us, but to prepare us. Because what lies on the other side of crisis is creation. What comes after the fall is not always ruin sometimes. It's resurrection, but only if you're willing to burn. Only if you're willing to become the fire. The one that burns through illusion. The one that lights the path for others still trapped in the fog. This is your call. Not tomorrow. Not when it's convenient. Now. While the world is unraveling. While everything feels like it's slipping. That's not the end, that's the beginning. That's where real life starts. Where comfort ends and courage begins. Because no system, no culture, no algorithm can give you what only you can claim your soul. And it's time. Time to stop apologizing for the depth you crave. Time to stop numbing the questions that haunt you. Time to stop shrinking to fit into a world that's dying from smallness. The hidden crisis of modern society is the mass extinction of the self. Don't be another casualty. Be the counterforce. Be the proof that even now, especially now, it is possible to be awake, to be real, to be alive. This world may be failing, but you don't have to. Become the rupture. Become the rebellion. Become what this age forgot it needed. A soul on fire.